Lord preached during his earthly ministry, or what Moses wrote about concerning the law, or the prophets talked about concerning the millennial reign that is to come, that's not living godly. It's scriptural, but that's not living godly. Living godly today means you're living in accord with Paul's doctrine. That's what it means. And when you live in accord with Paul's doctrine, you better believe you're going to suffer persecution. If you don't believe me, you go down to the next denominational church in any direction and start preaching Paul's doctrine in that denominational church, and you'll find out what it means to be persecuted. Okay? Now, by golly, this even happens within so-called grace churches, as I know firsthand. I'm not talking about this church, but I'm talking about other experiences that I've had in the past. Living godly means to live in accord with what Paul teaches. All right, now look at it. 1 Timothy 6, verse 7. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. Now that's a sharp contrast to what God tells Israel in the Old Testament. To be content. God, through the Apostle Paul, here's Paul's doctrine. Here's living godly. This is what it means. Godliness. To live godly. This is part of it. You want to be a grace Pauliner? You want to follow the Lord Jesus Christ as He instructed the Apostle Paul? Well, here's part of it. To be content with food and raiment. And I want to tell you, how many of us are content with just food and raiment? And when someone comes along and offers you a full platter, oh, you can have it all. Oh, you can have it all. You can have health and wealth. All you have to do is say Our Fathers and Hail Marys and get baptized and go to church and put money in the plate, drive the school bus, get up in the choir and sing. You can have it all. Promise you and you everything. And that's not even what God says. But look at this contrast. We're to be content with food and raiment. All right? And you say, well, how can we have food and raiment if we don't work for it? That's a good question. Why hasn't God given you the health and the strength and the mentality to do that? Huh? All right. Look at this. Look at what God says in Leviticus chapter 26. Now, if you want to read something, you read the 26th chapter of Leviticus. But I want to show you what God, this is right off the top. This is what God is going to do for Israel. Now, if this is what God is doing for us today, beloved, then something's wrong. Something is definitely wrong. Paul tells us in 1 Timothy chapter 6 there, and I think, what was it, verse 8? Having food and raiment therewith to be content. That's what we're to be content with. But look at what God tells Israel. Let's look at verse 4. 26 verse 4. Now, I'm not going to read the entire chapter, because when you get down to verse 14, things start to get real heavy. And people don't want to go past verse 13. They don't want to get into verse 14, because verse 14 down to the end of the chapter, God starts talking about those courses of judgment. People don't want to hear about those courses of judgment. But look at this. Verse 4. Leviticus 26, verse 4. Then I will give you rain in due season. Boy, wouldn't that be nice. Boy, the farmers today would have no complaints, wouldn't they? Boy, consider our seasons, how goofy they are. It's like we go from cold to hot to cold to hot. It's like there's hardly any division between them anymore. There's hardly any fall or any spring. Then I will give you rain in due season. And then when it rains, it's either just a little drizzle or it's a downpour and it rushes off. God's talking about the right kind of rain in the right amount, and it will come, and what will happen? And the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of the field shall yield her fruit. Now notice, look, it goes on. And your thrashing shall reach unto the vintage, and the vintage shall reach unto the growing time, sowing time. And ye shall, now look, and ye shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in your land safely. Do you feel safe in your land? You feel safe walking down the street? Huh? Well, look, that's kind of what he tells us in Isaiah 65, isn't it? We read that a couple of Sundays ago. Let's look at Isaiah 65. Hold here in 26, Leviticus 26, turn to Isaiah 65. What we just read in verse 5 about eating your bread to the full and dwelling in your land safely, it kind of smacks of this, doesn't it? Look at this. Isaiah 65, verse 21. Of course, we covered more verses back at that time, a few Sundays ago, but we're just going to look at verse 21 and the first part of 22. Look at this. And they shall build houses and inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. Now, if God, if in these blessings that God is promising Israel here in Leviticus 26, if they had obeyed Him to begin with, then this is what would be happening. They would be planting, reaping, eating their bread to the full, and dwelling in their land safely. Can any of that be said today? Why, even in this country, we have seen peoples, different types of peoples, where the government has gone in and gathered them up, put them in concentration camps, confiscated everything, and when they were released, they had nothing. Same way with the African people in Africa. They were stolen, kidnapped, forced into bondage, brought over here against their own will, and the same thing happened with the American natives. Their lands were stolen from them, gathered together, put on reservations. You know, beloved, these things happen. But God tells Israel, no, you plant your own food, you're going to eat it. You build your own house, you're going to live in it. No one's going to come along and take it away from you. But right here in this own country, we see it happening, don't we? Wow.
These things happen, but they happen subtly, right under your very nose. You don't see it.
I know. Shucks, there's rumors that they have concentration camps already in this country to gather us up together.
That's right. Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that's not here for us to talk about, is it?
It's true for that couple that made a sly remark to a previous president. He said, "You suck." Took him away and I never heard of him for.
Well, you got to be careful what you say to the president. That's for sure. You can't just go off and say anything to the president of the United States. You know. You just can't go up and put your arm around him and say, "Hey, how you doing, George?" You know, you can't do that. Okay? So you just got to remember that. But anyway, and supposedly we are to be showing respect to the office. Maybe we don't like the man, but we are to show respect to the office. But that's not what I'm talking about. We know, we've seen these things happen. And then